The problem with self-judgment is that it does not help us direct ourselves towards better choices. When we say, oh, I should be with my kids, or I should have seen my parents last weekend, that should statement doesn't lead you, probably, to then call them and make up for that. It just leaves us feeling bad. Hi, I'm Ryan, and I'm a therapist with Headspace, and this is Ask a Therapist, a series where I, a therapist, am going to answer some common questions that people have, either about therapy or different life experiences they're going through, that they're looking for some maybe additional perspective on. Today we have a question from Arthur, who asks a New Year's resolution question. The question is, I've set some personal goals and resolutions for the coming year, but I don't always feel that they are supported or shared by my household. How do I maintain consistency and focus on my own path, which might not align with my family's? Well, Arthur, first I want to commend you for knowing that sometimes you have goals in the first place. Sometimes that's the hardest place. We can slip into just whatever feels natural and whatever feels normal in our household and kind of continue on from there. So the fact that you want to set some goals that might differ from what the house tends to do is a good thing. In terms of maintaining your consistency and focus, that's a challenge that a lot of people experience. Something I can relate to myself when I've tried to do exercise in the house. My 9-year-old daughter wants to play too. She wants to climb all over me. So that can make it hard to feel like, oh, I want to be able to work out here, but I also don't want to have to wake up before you're awake to be able to do that. So that's where we find opportunities to compromise. And in terms of working with my 9-year-old daughter, there's a tough conversation in there. Maybe it's about distracting her. Maybe it's about incorporating her. Hey, do you want to do this exercise with me? Hey, do you want to do yoga with me? Maybe it's about finding time when she's at school. So there is a little bit of compromise that has to happen. But when we ground ourselves in the importance of the habit or the importance of the goal, and then communicate that importance to, for example, the members of our household, then we get buy-in from them, right? If your daughter wakes up and sees you working out in the morning, that's new and confusing, and it might just be something that she wants to join in on. But if there's been a conversation of, hey, tomorrow I'm starting a new workout routine. When you come downstairs, I might be, lifting weights in the living room. This is very important to me. I'm going to set a timer. As soon as that timer goes off, we can play and I'm all yours. Conversely, if you don't get that buy-in, well, that's where we have to pivot and find where our own opportunities exist. Maybe I do have to leave the house and go for a walk or go for a run. Maybe I do have to do it when you're asleep or when there might not be a convenient time. If those goals are important enough to you, that's when making those adjustments have to be justified, right? Because if we let go of our goals or let go of the value of those habits because of, let's just say, inconsistencies in the house, that's going to feel frustrating over time. And that's when we build resentment and anger and tension, and that's what we're trying to prevent. So to summarize, the first step is looking for that opportunity to get buy-in, looking even for accountability. Hey, can you help me with this change I'm trying to make? Now it's something that you're doing with me, or even you're just helping me to do. Even if you don't get buy-in, hopefully through an approach like that, you get acknowledgement that even if those goals or those habits are not shared within the household, you can self-validate that they're important enough for you to follow through on. So thank you so much, Arthur, for asking this question. And of course, with resolutions and the new year, you can also go into the Headspace app and you can look up goal setting. You can also look up resolutions, and there's some great guided meditations that can be helpful for you with this topic. So thank you so much for the question. Our next question comes from Xenia, and Xenia asks a question about holidays and time spent with the family. What I dread most during the holidays are two feelings. Number one, I feel like I should be doing more to create lasting memories for my children and loved ones, whether that's through better decorations, more fun activities, or special meals. And number two, I constantly feel like I'm in the wrong place. When I'm with my parents, I worry that I'm letting down my husband. When I see old friends, I feel like I'm neglecting my parents. And when I go on a date with my husband, I worry about leaving my kids behind. I often feel guilty for not spending enough time with everyone, which adds to my stress. Any tips on how to manage these feelings? Well, Xenia, thank you so much for both of these questions. I think this is an experience that a lot of people can relate to, wanting the holidays to be as special as they can for themselves, but also for their family. If you asked me this question in therapy, the thing that I would ask you in response would be, what are your memories from your childhood growing up? Do you remember big special events? Do you remember special decorations, special meals? Or are your memories from the holidays growing up little quiet moments, just being there with the people that you love? Because I think sometimes this pressure that we put on ourselves to create special experiences is coming from a little bit of a place of self-judgment, and I do this to myself too, where we want to be the best version of ourselves, whether it be for our kids or our partners, as you said, for your extended family as well. And if we feel like we're not doing that, then we can slip into a little bit of self-judgment, which I think you acknowledged maybe you do a little bit in this question. And the problem with self-judgment is that it does not help us direct ourselves towards better choices. When we say, oh, I should be with my kids, or I should have seen my parents last weekend, that should statement doesn't lead you probably to then call them and make up for that. It just leaves us feeling bad. Now, if you want to see your parents more, if you want to spend more time with your kids, that's great. And we can lean into those emotions, but we want these actions to be coming from a place of things that you want to do for people and not just things and pressure that you're putting on yourself because you feel like you should be doing more. If you're doing it, it's good enough, right? If you're putting time and attention into these relationships that you care so much about, that is enough for those relationships. And secondly, that if you're wanting to do things for yourself, if you want to go out on a date with your husband, that positive thing that you're doing for yourself is also good for your kids, is also good for your parents, because all of those people want the best version of you too. And that means that sometimes you do things for yourself. Trust that whatever you're doing on a baseline level is good for you and is good for your family. So thank you so much for this question, and I hope this is helpful. Our next question comes from Denzel. Denzel has a question about relationships and grief. The question is, my parent recently passed away and I'm feeling overwhelmed at the thought of the upcoming holiday season. I don't have the energy to celebrate or to put on a happy face. Do you have any guidance on how to cope with grief during the holidays? Well, Denzel, thank you so much for this question, and I can tell this is a really hard time for you, so thank you for acknowledging that you're going through this. I hope it helps you, but I can guarantee you that it helps other people that are out there. The holidays can be stressful enough on their own, but when you're also navigating a heavy emotion like grief at the same time, it can become extra stressful. So the place I would start would just be in self-compassion, and that if you're expecting yourself to go through any celebrations or to put on happy faces for people, or if you're getting any pressure like that from other people, just being able to start from a place of self-compassion, acknowledge, actually, I'm going through a lot right now and I can't handle going out to the office Christmas party or whatever it might be. That needs to be okay, that you need that space right now. That being said, if we're talking about how to get through grief during the holidays, especially if we've recently lost someone, in this case a parent, I talk about when I'm working with people on grief, what you want that relationship with that person to look like even after they're gone. So do you have traditions? Do you want to talk about that person? Do you want to pray to that person? Do you want to journal to that person? Feeling like you can still have a relationship with that person, feeling like you can honor them, especially during the holidays when there are so many traditions going on with families already, can help you start to normalize what it's going to look like in future holidays without that person. Being able to be intentional about maybe creating new traditions for yourself or showing yourself what kind of relationship you can still have with this person even after they're gone puts the control a little bit more on your side, and you get to decide, well, this is what I want Christmas to be like now that my parent's not here. I want to tell stories about them. I want to make sure I put their picture out. Whatever it looks like, you get to decide. No one else can tell you that you're supposed to be happy. It's okay if this now becomes a sad time of year for you. It might be that way for a little while, but that's what this is what getting through grief can look like. We also have some great content on the Headspace app. If you go into the Explore section, you can search for grief. We have a grieving course, as well as some really good guided meditations that can help you process some of these feelings, just to get some self-validation, which might be really important when you're going through these difficult feelings. So I'm so sorry that you're going through this, but I want to empower you to make you feel like there are things that you can do that are in your control to really determine what you want this holiday season to look like. So thank you so much for this question. And if you have any future questions that you want to submit to Ask a Therapist at Headspace, please reach out. I'd love to see them.